The joke was supposed to be harmless. A throwaway line from a woman who had learned to use humor as armor. But some words, once spoken, have a way of rewriting destiny, and on a Tuesday morning in Greenwich, Connecticut, a CEO named Claire Harrington laughed at a man she had never met, and accidentally changed both their lives forever. Claire was the kind of woman who made boardrooms go quiet when she walked in. 38 years old, founder of a logistics empire valued at over $400 million, she had built everything she owned from nothing but ambition and 18-hour days. She drove a company Tesla, wore Italian suits, and had exactly zero patience for things that didn't work. Which is why the 1973 Porsche Carrera RS sitting in the back bay of her Greenwich estate had become a personal insult. Her late father had left it to her. 3 luxury dealerships, 2 European specialists, and 1 very expensive consultant from Stuttgart had all failed to diagnose why the engine would fire up beautifully for exactly 40 seconds before dying, like something inside it simply gave up. She had been told everything from, the carburetors are beyond saving, to, it needs a full engine rebuild. She had spent close to $60,000 chasing an answer nobody could give her. Her assistant Marcus had suggested a local mechanic named Ethan Cole. Claire had laughed out loud at the suggestion. She laughed even harder when she saw him pull up in a dented pickup truck with a car seat in the back. He was wearing a gray work shirt with his name stitched above the pocket, dirty from a morning of actual work, and beside him, holding a stuffed teddy bear and blinking slowly at the world with serious brown eyes, was his daughter, Sophie, who was 5 years old and apparently went everywhere her father went because there was no one else. Claire's 2 assistants exchanged a look behind her back. One of them barely suppressed a smile. And Claire, feeling the mood of the room, made the joke. She said, loud enough for everyone to hear, that if this man could fix what 3 dealerships couldn't, she'd marry him on the spot. Laughter rippled through the garage bay. Ethan didn't flinch. He just nodded once, the way men do when they've spent their whole lives being underestimated, and asked if he could look at the car. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet dignity of people who never give up, hit that like button right now, drop a comment below, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Stories like this one are why we're here. What happened next is the part nobody in that garage could explain afterward, no matter how many times they tried. Ethan walked to the rear of the Porsche where the engine lived, because in a 911, the engine is in the back, a fact that had tripped up at least 2 of the previous specialists, and he lifted the lid. He stood there. He didn't touch anything. He didn't pull out a diagnostic tool or a flashlight or a phone. He just looked. And then, after exactly 11 seconds, he went completely silent in a way that was different from regular silence. His shoulders dropped slightly. His jaw tightened. And Sophie, who had been standing quietly beside him clutching her bear, looked up at her father's face and reached out to touch his hand. What Ethan had recognized in that engine bay was his father's handwriting. Not literally. But in every practical sense, yes. Because Ethan Cole's father, Raymond Cole, had been one of the most gifted air-cooled Porsche restoration specialists in the northeastern United States, a man who had worked in obscurity out of a small shop in Bridgeport for 30 years, who had developed a signature method of shimming the cooling tin around the cylinder heads in a way that solved a chronic heat distribution problem in the 2.7 RS engines. Raymond had done it to exactly 4 cars in his career. He had documented it in handwritten notes that Ethan had spent years studying, then packed away in a box after his father died, because looking at them hurt too much. Ethan had been 19 when Raymond passed. He had not finished his apprenticeship. He had gone on to become a general mechanic, a good one, but he had always felt like a man who had inherited a language he never fully got to learn. Until right now. Because the shimming pattern on the cooling tin of Claire Harrington's Porsche was unmistakable. Raymond Cole had touched this engine. And whatever had been done to it in the decades since, the well-meaning but misguided interventions of specialists who didn't know what they were looking at, had slowly worked against his father's original design. The car wasn't broken. It was fighting. It was trying to run the way Raymond had built it to run, and 30 years of incorrect servicing had been slowly strangling it. Ethan spent 4 hours in that garage. He didn't speak much. Sophie sat on a stool in the corner and drew pictures in a small notebook she carried everywhere, occasionally looking up to watch her father work with an expression of absolute trust that made one of the assistants have to look away. Claire had come back twice to check on things, half expecting to find him packing up and admitting defeat. Instead, she found him methodical and completely calm, moving through the engine with a certainty that she recognized because she had it herself, the particular confidence of someone who finally understands the problem. When he was done, he asked her to start the car. Claire sat in the driver's seat and turned the key. The flat-six engine behind her crackled to life. She waited. 10 seconds. 20. 40. The engine did not die. It sat there and idled with a deep, mechanical contentment, a sound so perfect it was almost musical. 1 full minute passed. Then 2. When Claire finally got out of the car, her face had done something it hadn't done in a very long time in front of other people. Her eyes had filled. She asked him how he knew what to do. And he told her about his father. About the shop in Bridgeport. About the notes in the box. About the 4 cars Raymond had ever done this particular modification to. And then Claire Harrington, CEO, asked him a question that she had never asked anyone in a professional context in her entire career. She asked him if he was okay. Because she could hear in the way he described his father that this repair had not just been a job. It had been a reunion. He looked at her for a long moment. Sophie had appeared beside him without either of them noticing, and she slipped her small hand into his. He said, quietly, that he was better now than he had been this morning. They stood there in the garage in Greenwich as the Porsche idled behind them, and something shifted in the room that had nothing to do with engines or jokes or money. 2 people who had both spent years outrunning their grief, one through power, one through work, recognized something in each other. It wouldn't be a wedding, not yet, not even close. Life doesn't work in joke-sized miracles. But it was a beginning, the kind that arrives quietly, through an open hood, and a little girl with a teddy bear, and a father's handwriting on a piece of cooling tin that his son never stopped knowing how to read. Before you go, type Raymond in the comments if this story made you think of someone you've lost who deserved to be seen. If this story reached inside your chest and held something there, if it reminded you that the people the world overlooks are often carrying the most extraordinary things, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a reason to believe in people today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every story we tell is a small act of faith that kindness still matters. Thank you for being here.